You know, the truth is, I don't really know what I'm doing. I think many of us don't know. Sometimes it's really cool to see someone, on a video or in person who's talking about how they know what their purpose is, or they know where they're going or what they're doing, and they're certain they're going to get to wherever it is they want to go. And it's pretty cool. It's definitely something that screams confidence whenever someone is certain. But where does certainty come from? Because I can say I want to be certain. I want to be certain about what I'm doing, where I'm going. But I'm not. And I don't necessarily think I actually need to be. There's a difference between the desire for knowing and then what actually is. Which is, I think that most of us actually don't know what we're doing or where we're going. Maybe that's more usual and more common than knowing, than certainty. I don't actually understand how we're supposed to know. Because we don't know what's going to happen. We have no idea. But I can tell you there's a part of me that just wishes, that dreams, like desires, that someday in the future I'll be able to say, I knew it. I knew this is where I was going. I knew this is what I was going to achieve. I knew it this whole time. And that each decision I made and each choice, it brought me closer to this. And that's why I made those choices, because I knew that they were the ones that were going to take me here. I knew that those were the exact choices to make. I knew it. I knew it this whole time. And it's like knowing the future, being able to predict the future, and then calculating backwards to what you need to get there. But the whole thing doesn't make sense. At least not really. At least not to me. Because I want to say that. But it's not true. And I don't think it's going to be. No matter what I dream, and no matter whether I get there, wherever there is or not. I don't really think I'll be able to say I knew it. Maybe I'll be able to say I knew it in terms of I know I can do something cool and awesome and great. And I can feel that in my soul. I know that. But that doesn't mean I know what it is. And that doesn't mean it's going to be successful in conventional terms. I'm trying to build a book publishing company, but that doesn't mean that's that doesn't mean that's the amazing thing that I'm going to do. Maybe the amazing thing that I'm going to do is just build a life for myself that feels great. And maybe that's somewhere close to nature, not around a whole lot of people. And I just chill. Like I do the things I need to do. And then I just hang out with the nature, with the trees, wander around, look at the grass and the animals and read books and draw, watch movies maybe. I don't know, just look at things. I like looking at things, observing things. Things that don't move too fast. Yeah, maybe that's the amazing thing. Or maybe it's something that I haven't even started yet, but maybe it is. Maybe it's the book publishing company thing. Or maybe, who knows? Do you also ever just want to be able to say I knew it, or I know where I'm going? Because I don't actually know. I know sometimes when a particular choice is important, when it's something that's going to change my life drastically. I have made choices like that in the past, and I'm sure there's more to come. But even though I can know that a choice itself is important and that something big is going to change as a result, it doesn't mean I know what is going to change or what new things that change will lead to, what new choices I will have the ability to make that will then lead me to even newer other places. And I don't know the consequences of all my choices. I wish I did, because if I did, then I could choose easier, right? But that's the point, we don't know. But that's the whole point, though, that we don't really know. We can try to predict things. We can try to get somewhere where we imagine that we think we want to be, but we don't actually know where our choices take us. And so the point is, when I was younger, I did think adults knew what they were doing. I thought they had everything figured out. And the older I get, I realize they don't. The older I get, the more I realize that adults are just as confused as kids, if not more. Yeah, maybe they have a job. Yeah, maybe they have kind of figured out how to do life, somewhat. But not really. There's so many things they still don't know. Maybe there's so many dreams that adults still have that they're trying to reach or find their way towards. They're still trying to figure out the same thing of, what am I doing? Or do I want to be doing something different? And yes, if what? Or if I know what, how do I do that thing instead of whatever it is that I am doing? Does anyone ever just totally know that they're doing exactly the thing that they're supposed to be? Or I don't know, not supposed to be, but want to be doing? I don't know where any of my choices are going to lead me. I don't know how I make choices. I don't know what I base them on. Usually I think of them quite calculated until I really think about them. And suddenly they're not. I make some guesses about what I think is going to happen, about possible outcomes, try to make choices where the majority of possible outcomes are ones that I want. But it's some sort of game that I don't know if I really need to be playing anymore. To just chill with the overthinking, if you know what I mean. I can tell you the things that I am passionate about right now, that I'm curious about right now, that I'm interested about in this very particular moment, which is right now. But it's going to change. It always does. It always has. And it could be that, I'm still young. I'm still trying new things and learning new things. And yeah, I've narrowed down some things of things I definitely don't like and don't want to do. And some things which I definitely like more. But I can't promise anything. I also don't know how anybody ever promises anything. Things change. How can you ever promise anything? You don't know. Not for sure. Not for certain. That whole concept makes no sense to me of a promise. Things change. Minds change. Schedules change. Hearts change. Yeah, I don't know. I kind of just started thinking about some random things. Nighttime is always the best time. Well, I guess I can't say always. I guess I don't like using the words always or never or promise, because there's exceptions to everything. And I feel like partially there's a good amount of humans who know inherently that there's exceptions. That when they say the words always or never or promise, they don't mean always or never or promise. They mean always, unless there's an exception. Never, unless there's an exception. Promise, unless something happens that changes it. And so, when they say these words, that's what they mean. And when people who understand that meaning hear these words, they understand that, so they don't take those words as literally. And then there's me, who sometimes tries to figure that out, but sometimes takes it a little literally, like the literal meaning of the words. Always is always, not accounting for exception. It's like the extreme. It's like always. And then never is like another extreme, whose definition, like actual definition, doesn't account for the exceptions. And then same thing with promise. Like it's supposed to mean promise of like there's definitely nothing at all ever that could possibly happen that could make me break whatever I said I would do or whatever. Like, and so words, I feel like sometimes then when people say these words, they do mean the direct definitions that they were given. I mean, like, why would we make these words and define them in this way and speak them, but not mean exactly their definition? They're like, why don't we then just redefine them? Or, like, I don't know. Like, I'm pretty sure if you search up on the dictionary that always and never are defined without that room for like exception, like unless something else happens and shows up, and then it's not never, then it's like sometimes, but like mostly never, you know? No, because if you're trying to say mostly never, you say mostly never, you don't say never. And so this whole language thing, sometimes confusing. Maybe it's still my overthinking in that I want to be like super careful with what I say, because if I'm careful with what I say, then that means what I say is like true. Or like if I'm careful to be true, meaning like if I'm careful not to say always or never, and if I'm careful not to like 100% promise anything, just say like the truth of like, hey, like someone invited me to a party. Instead of saying, oh yeah, I promise I'll be there, I can be like, yeah, I definitely would like to be there, and I'll plan on coming or like intend on coming. But I won't say I'm definitely going to be there, because like what if something changes? What if that day like I wake up and I don't know, I have to do some project or something came up or just whatever, anything, right? And then I don't go to the like, right? Because then if I don't promise, then I don't have a promise to break. So for as long as I don't promise for certain, then the things that I say are true, and I remain true to my word. Well, obviously, not okay. Just because I don't promise something, that doesn't mean it's always the truth. But I guess what I'm trying to say is that like you get what I mean. Hopefully, if I don't promise something and I say like maybe, then I'm speaking the truth, because it's a maybe. It's not a definitely. It's never a definitely. Nothing is ever a definitely. Even if it seems like easy and doable and like it's going to happen, it's never a definitely. And so that all ties back into the whole certainty thing of like, I'm so careful, or I want to be careful not to use words like always and promise and never, because then if people hold me to my word, and they can, then that word is correct, because it doesn't say definitely, it just says maybe. But then by that thinking or concept, it should follow that certainty doesn't exist. Like 100% certainty. Because we don't fully know what's going to happen. And that does align with what I feel. I don't feel like anything is 100% certain. But then yet, why is there still this wish or desire to be 100% certain if I don't even think it exists? If we could just predict everything, this would be no fun. This whole life thing. If we knew everything that was going to happen. Why can't I just, like, not really care if it's uncertain or not, if I know where I'm going or not? Why do I think so much? I don't know why I think so much. There comes a point where thinking is not helpful, where more thinking is not helpful. And then it's kind of like, well, then why do I have this ability to think so much if it's not really helpful? It's not really preparing me for things. It's not really making my life more joyful or more content. It's not really, I don't know, it's not really doing anything. You know, I'm curious to know if there's anyone else who, like, forgets sometimes that you can do things without thinking about them. Like, when I go to brush my teeth at night, yeah, there's like a certain order in which I want to do my nighttime routine or like morning routine. However, it doesn't really feel like a habit because it feels like every time I do the action, I feel like I have to choose it again every single time. Like I'm thinking about it and then I'm doing it. Almost as if I can't do something unless I've thought about it first. And this extends pretty far. Like, I don't know that I get out of bed without having the thought in my head first, oh, I'm going to get out of bed now. Like, now I've decided to get out of bed. And so then now I can actually get out of bed. And when I was even younger, I was like a kid. I remember being confused. Or like, not confused, but uncertain, I would say. That my body would definitely breathe if I didn't think about it. That if I wasn't like aware of myself breathing, that like somehow that would stop happening. It didn't. And there were definitely a good amount of moments when I would forget. And then I would remember again after like, I don't know, 15 minutes or an hour or something. This wasn't all the time. Just like I would forget and then I'd remember and then I would be so like confused. This is where the confusion came in of like nothing happened. So like I didn't know I was breathing, but I was breathing. Like how is that even possible? And clearly this is something on a scale closer to some extreme of something. But I don't get it. I don't get how I got to this point of feeling like I need to think about every single thing before I do it. Like, I don't just get up and go make tea. because something just in me just feels like it wants to make tea. No, I like think the thought. Like I hear the thought in my head of like, oh, and now I want to make tea. Like it has to be like a thought in my head. And this makes like absolutely no sense. Like how do I reteach myself to just do things without feeling like every single thing is a choice again? Like we have habits, supposedly, and routines. And I definitely know when I get up that there is still a certain way that I want to do something. And I hear the thought in my head, oh, and now I'm going to do this. But also there's a part of me that like questions some of that, or like, what if I do it differently? What if I do this first instead of that? And some of those things can be rearranged and be like, okay, fine, I can open like this curtain first instead of that curtain. Or like I can pull up this window shade first instead of that one. It's like it doesn't matter which one. But and sometimes it's like, yeah, I can go brush my teeth before I like open the window shade shutters or curtains or something. But then other times it's like there is a thing in my body that's like, no, but I don't want it in that order. Like not really. I want you open the curtains and then you go brush your teeth. And so I'm like, okay, so I'll do it that way. Right? But there's like, it's like a question mark in my head. It's not like oh, I get up and this is exactly what I do every day, and so I just do it without thinking. No, I get up and I question if I want to do it again that way. And even though every single day it ends up being very, very similar, like not the same, just like similar, like some like similar. Still, each day it's like a question mark of like, am I gonna do this today or not? Like is like why? Like it's so much energy. It's so unnecessary. So yeah. Yeah. And everything just cycles and cycles. And sometimes there are times when I definitely got worried that like, oh, I dropped something like yoga or like Zumba or something. Like, oh, I stopped doing it. And then it just appears again. And it's like, oh, now I like this again. And it's like, and then I don't like this anymore. So I'm not going to do this one. I'm going to do this other one. Like I have like I'll do yoga for a week or two. And then I'm like, yeah, I don't really like this that much anymore. So then I'll do Zumba and movement. And then I wake up one day and I'm like, okay, but now I don't want to do this. So then it's like, okay. So then I just don't do that this morning. Maybe this morning I go out for a walk outside. And then it's like, great. And then a different morning, it's like, no, I don't want to get dressed to go outside that all the way. Like, so it like, there's different things, but it's like, technically there is a space in which most days, like in the morning, I try to do something active, whether it's like yoga or like a mini dance party in my room or go out for a walk or something. And some days it's none of that. It's just sleep the longest I can sleep until my first work meeting or something. And, or it's like, yeah, no, I have time to do that. I just don't want to today. So I don't today. But so then every single day, it's like a choice. It's not I know what I'm going to do. It's like I get up and it's like, okay, number one, do I even want to do the thing, which is like some sort of active thing? Number two, if yes, which one? There's like the yoga thing, or I can dance, or I can get dressed and go outside, and then as I'm getting dressed, I'll be like, but is this what I want to be doing for sure? And then I'll go outside and I'm like, yeah, okay, this is nice. And then it's like It's like running through all sorts, like all the possibilities of possibilities, and it's like not necessary. Ah, yeah. Yeah. Those are my thoughts, and those are some of my experiences. And I'm curious if you relate to any of these things, or if it's just, I don't know, if it's just an experience that's different from yours, which is mine. Or maybe some people will get it and some people won't. And maybe, I don't know. It's really cool that like we all genuinely see the world in a different way and experience in a different way. And I forget that sometimes, but not most of the time. But it was the craziest thing when I just learned that people think differently. Like some people hear their thoughts like a monologue, like an internal monologue. Some people see images. Some people can do both. And some people don't have either. And my brain like always talks. Or like, you know, the inner monologue, it's like always there. Always there. Um and sometimes I can see images and imagine things too. It happens to be much clearer when I close my eyes than when my eyes are open, but I can do both of those things. Um, and I don't know, like I've tried meditation. I've done it sometimes. But I don't really do the one where you try to force yourself to stop thinking. And like I feel like there's very few times when my brain has not been thinking about something. But maybe it has to do with like traveling in cities and different environments. I'm sure that I can't just take that completely out of the picture because when I spend more time in nature and less around people and less around moving vehicles and highways and cars, then it's quieter in my head. I feel like cities sometimes, there's always movement in cities. And sometimes that makes me feel like I have to be in constant movement. Like I have to do something all the time or be doing something all the time. And you know, like as if I'm not allowed to do nothing, as if like I can't sit still for a second because if I do, then it's like you have to always be doing something to have like worth or value or something. And that something, though, doesn't have to be meaningful. It's great if it's productive and effective and, you know, meaningful. But the definition of like you always have to be doing something doesn't matter what that something is. It could be not productive or meaningful or anything. It could be scrolling for hours upon hours as long as like that is counts as doing something, which for some reason is given more value than like sitting and staring at a blank wall. Even though you might relax more if you just sat and stared at a blank wall. Or just like thought through things or did nothing. I've been in places where doing nothing is part of life, where it appears in a daily, weekly routine. It just happens because suddenly you've done the things that you need to do, and there isn't something else. And so you just exist. And you don't have to do anything else. Like, you don't have to scroll through things. Like, maybe you want to, and if you want to, you go do that, right? But if you don't want to, like, sometimes I do that not because I want to, just because I feel like I need to be doing something. And then I forget, like, oh, yeah, you don't have to. You could just do nothing. And maybe I would enjoy doing nothing more than scrolling if I don't want to be scrolling right now. There's definitely been countries I've visited where it's not necessarily doing nothing that's part of the, like, lifestyle or routine or something, but it's more of a, there's time in the day where you slow down. Like, for example, for meals and eating food. Like, in the United States, not really a thing to, like, sit down with your family and eat meals. At least not in, like, the big cities. But then you go to, like, Portugal or Spain or Argentina, Costa Rica, and it's like, no. Meals are times when everyone comes together and sits together and eats, and everything else stops. Stores close down, nobody's working, everything stops. You just sit and you eat with people. And it doesn't last like 15 minutes, it lasts an hour, it lasts 2 hours. An hour or two where you sit down, you get comfortable, you eat slowly, you have, like, conversations, and you hang out. And then everybody feels like, I don't know, better, full, relaxed, something. Maybe not. Depends on what happened. But, you know, the general idea is, like, you've slowed down and you just relaxed. The rest and digest mode. I don't know where people who live in cities, in big cities in the United States, find that. And I can say for a fact I did really like those moments when I had them in other countries. When it was just part of the routine where it's like, okay, and now everything must stop because it's food time. Because, like, otherwise, how do you know when everything else can stop? And it's like, sometimes you worry that, like, if you put everything else to stop, it's not going to start again. So you never stop anything. Like, you eat for 15 minutes, you go back to work, or you eat during the work meeting or something. Like, it's just, you know, but you gotta stop things sometimes. You gotta just put it from your head to out of your head and just, otherwise it gets tiring. Yeah, okay. That's my train of thought for today. Let me know your thoughts. Cool. Glad you could join me in this cozy corner of the internet, where I don't really know what I'm doing. But that's okay. Most of us don't, I think. Maybe I'm wrong. It's okay if I am. But yeah. Adios. Hasta luego.